What's up, everybody, and welcome back to NFL Hard Count. Today, we need to address this growing quarterback debate coming out of Cleveland. How did Joe Flacco revive his career and potentially destroy another one in the span of just 5 weeks? As we head into the 2024 postseason and offseason, what could Joe Flacco's success in Cleveland mean for Deshaun Watson's future with the Browns and his massive guaranteed contract? Stay until the end of the video so you won't have to miss a beat. But first, let's go all the way back to 2018 Week 9. The Baltimore Ravens were coming off a mediocre start, starting 4-4 at the beginning of the season. The 2013 Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco had been a starting quarterback for the Ravens for a decade. Then Joe Flacco went down with an injury that ultimately decided his fate in Baltimore. The Ravens replaced the injured Joe Flacco with rookie Lamar Jackson, and with that rookie at the helm, Baltimore went 6-1, and the Ravens suddenly realized they didn't need Flacco and traded him for a 4th rounder. Brutal, yes, but necessary in the eyes of the Baltimore Ravens front office. Fast forward to 2013 and the tables have turned. It's now Joe Flacco's turn to burn another QB's high-profile career, this time for the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback, or should I say, old starting quarterback Deshaun Watson. On March 20th, 2022, the Cleveland Browns sent shockwaves across the league as they traded loads of draft picks, essentially their entire future and practically their dignity, to sign the then Houston Texans starting quarterback Deshaun Watson. It seemed like it was a scene straight out of the 2014 movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner, starring as the Browns GM trying to trade away their entire future for college superstar Bo Callahan. Not just that, but soon after the trade went buzzing online, the Cleveland Browns and Watson quickly agreed to a 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed contract, the largest contract in NFL history at the time. Pretty ballsy play for the Browns given Deshaun Watson's history off of the field. We have all seen teams take a gamble to turn a franchise upside down, or I guess in this case right side up, but we have never seen anything like this before. Giving a man who hasn't played for almost 2 years the largest contract in history? Huge gamble and balls of steel. You can also say that the other teams were kind of upset with the Browns setting the market like that for future quarterback contracts. And as many of us did not forget, this was the time when Watson was accused of sexual allegations in a lawsuit that bugged him for years. Many were skeptical of the Browns' latest signing. And well, skeptical was a bit of an understatement. Many fans were livid. Don't take me wrong though, Deshaun Watson is a generational talent, supremely talented on the field. But with his career diminished by allegations of sexual misconduct, not to mention his proneness to injuries, many fans were asking if it was worth the gamble. And for the Browns ownership, they thought so. They gave the man the bag. All he had to do was perform. And then came a series of misfortunes. The news dropped. With the NFL closely watching Watson's allegations, the league announced on August 20th, 2022, that Watson would be suspended for 11 games, receiving a total of a $5 million fine and undergo a complete treatment program. It was a complete disaster for the Browns. Though the NFL allowed Watson to be in preseason workouts, the Browns would have to wait until Week 13 to reap the rewards of their high-risk return on their investment. Then, Week 13 came. Watson was reinstated from his suspension and was officially added to the 53-man roster. His first game? Coincidentally, it was against his former team, the Houston Texans. Actual cinema and a great storyline for these two franchises. Then the game kicked off and we were underway. So let's see, how could I describe Watson's performance? Well, let's just give some friendly advice. No one should put much expectation on a QB who hasn't played for almost 700 days. Watson stunk in that game, posting a career-low passer rating of 53.4, but the expectations were low given his time away from the game. However, the slump just continued for Watson, ending with a 3-3 record for the Browns, with 1,102 total passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a 79.1 passer rating, the worst of his entire career. The entire Cleveland Browns organization had cold sweats running down their faces, hoping that this was just a temporary slump on a player they put all their chips in. He's just warming up, right? When he gets all of the rust gone and gets back to his peak form, he can bring back the glory to the Browns. Then the 2023 season started. Week 1 stinked, Week 2 abysmal, but Week 3, prime Deshaun Watson delivered. Deshaun Watson posted a much-needed flawless performance to quiet all of the haters. For the first time since he came back, there were no questions about whether he was ready. It was evident that he could work under Coach Kevin Stefanski's offense. This is exactly what the Browns were expecting when they signed Watson. All he needed to do was replicate this type of game, which he never did, unfortunately. The next 3 games, he went back to being just an average QB. And in Week 10 against the Baltimore Ravens, his career went to a new low, suffering a displaced fracture in his throwing shoulder. Just days after that, the team announced that Deshaun Watson would be undergoing a season-ending surgery to repair a broken bone in his shoulder. And that was it for Watson's season. Not even 2 years into his lucrative contract, the Browns get absolutely nothing in return. The Browns were left with no starting quarterback, a great defense, and an offense with some very good weapons. With playoff contention hanging in the balance, they needed a quarterback with massive experience that could immediately step in and carry this team moving forward. There were surprisingly a lot of options for the Browns. They could sign Colt McCoy or even Colin Kaepernick or Cam Newton, since we all know they love to gamble so much on their QBs. Some sports pundits even said Tom Brady, and well, I think we can all agree that that was a Hail Mary for sure. After days of looking for a suitable quarterback, the Browns never failed to shock anyone as they signed a former Super Bowl MVP, Joe Flacco. Once again, many were skeptical. Joe Flacco's career has been the worst fall from grace, not just in the NFL, but North American sports. Joe Flacco went from being one of the most underrated QBs into a Super Bowl MVP into mediocrity. Flacco was a Ravens legend over 10 years ago, and whether you liked it or not, he gave the franchise its second championship in history. After he won the chip, the Ravens decided to reward him with the largest contract for a quarterback at the time. But then in 2013, after receiving his bag, Joe Flacco's play went into a steep decline. 2013 became statistically Joe's worst season of his career. He made history by throwing more interceptions than touchdowns, a pretty gruesome feat to achieve. After that, Joe Flacco did not go back to his peak form. He was a shadow of himself, throwing conservative passes, dinks and dunks, and always playing for the field goal range. He was way too conservative with his passing game and far from the confident QB the Ravens had in 2012. In his final years in Baltimore, Joe was even riddled with injuries at an age when he was supposed to be in his prime. In 2018, he was released from the team and was replaced with a younger QB, Lamar Jackson. Joe desperately wanted to revive his career elsewhere. He was in his 30s and knew that he had gas left in the tank. He tried for the Broncos, the Eagles, and the Jets, but he was nowhere near his old self. Sure, he can still play, but the consistency was just not there. After his second stint with the Jets, many fans were sure that the 38-year-old quarterback's career was over. That was it. He was just seen as a one-hit wonder who peaked for a year and never came back. Surely his career was over. Then the Cleveland Browns hit up his cell and decided to take a gamble once again on the quote-unquote washed-up quarterback. For the Browns, it just made sense. They signed a quarterback who knew the Browns' offensive system. He knew how to win, a proven champion, a role model for the young players in the locker room, and maybe even for their original starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Without high hopes, they decided to ride with Flacco for the rest of the season. Little did Joe Flacco and the Browns know that Flacco would drink from the fountain of youth and play like a Super Bowl MVP again. In 5 games this 2023-24 season, Joe Flacco has passed for 1,616 yards, overcoming every QB in that span, not to mention 13 touchdowns. This QB was the same guy who sat in front of his TV for months, wondering if he would ever come back to the league. Flacco did a masterful job keeping the Browns' offense from falling apart. Oh, and by the way, he did this all on a 1-year, $2.5 million contract, a vast difference from Deshaun Watson's contract and overall performance in Cleveland. Joe Flacco's experience certainly proved worthy for the Browns. Sure, he was still prone to interceptions, but that's just how he plays. Even in Baltimore, you would have to see some possessions given away, but there's always high reward for the risky plays Joe Flacco is taking. With the Browns' formidable defense, Joe Flacco has a little less stress of carrying the whole team on his back, and has only been given the task of leading its offense. And it's worked so far. In his 5 starts with the Browns, he went 4-1 with a 90.2 passer rating, his best since 2014. He even set a record for the first quarterback to record at least 250 passing yards and 2 touchdown passes in each of his first 5 games with a new team. This man needs no time to build chemistry. He even brought the Browns to their first playoff berth since 2020, something Deshaun Watson still hasn't been able to accomplish. With Flacco doing well while only being worth a couple of $1 million to the franchise, many fans are thinking about that $230 million deal with Watson. And is it really worth it for the Browns? In this league, it's all about narratives. And when a replacement quarterback outperforms the original starting quarterback, it's natural to have questions. Can Joe Flacco continue to lead the Browns for the next couple of years? Or will the Browns continue to ride on with Watson's lucrative contract? If Joe continues to play like this, he's going to destroy Watson's future in Cleveland, and the franchise's front office is going to have to make some very, very big decisions. Who knows, maybe Joe is thinking about how he got kicked out of his own team by a replacement quarterback. Maybe he's embracing his father figure role as the team's old veteran. And to be fair, it seems that there's no bad blood between Flacco and Watson. Did you see the chest bump in their win against the New York Jets? But yeah, surely Watson has been watching closely from the sidelines, watching his team slowly slip through his fingers. The Browns, no doubt, have a hard decision to make in 2024 and the years ahead, and we'll just have to wait and see how it all pans out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.